This war stops now.
You are tired of the war. I can see on your face.
End the war. Bring freedom to our people.
This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
Let's stop! Listen to me! Stop!
So, welcome. I did it again. I said so. Maybe I'll leave that one. Welcome to the Stop and Listen podcast. I am your host, Jamie. A wonderful Sunday. I've had a weekend full of family. Had a Christmas yesterday and then a church Christmas performance. I got to watch my niece and nephew do some stuff on stage. It was great. So I've been holding off doing this video because I think I'm going to have a lot to say on it, and I wanted to kind of make it its own video. So presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, or I guess he's running for the primary in the Republican Party. He's in like third or fourth place. He's not doing so hot, so they say. And he did a town hall with CNN, and it didn't go like they thought it was going to go.
We have here Riley Miller. He's a law student at Drake University and a clerk in the Marion County Attorney's Office. He's a Republican who is currently undecided. Riley?
Thank you. On the debate stage, you have somewhat abandoned the tact and diplomacy that I would look for in a president. I'm all for keeping it real and dogging the establishment, but there's a gravitas that I look for in those who represent our country. How do you see the balance between keeping it, being authentic, and maintaining that presidential demeanor?
I appreciate the question. I think it's very candid.
See, that's one thing, like, you know, I don't need to feel like the president's my buddy. He doesn't need to be Zach Morris. But, like, I really thought that Trump would change once he was elected in 2016. I thought he would become more presidential, and he did not at all. But he's certainly authentic, so maybe there's something to be said for that.
That's what I love about Iowa. I get tougher questions from you guys than I do from the media. That's good. It's why we're here. So I appreciate that. Look, here's the standard I use for holding myself to or holding any president to. I want us to be able to look our kids in the eye and tell them that I want you to grow up and be like him. It's been a long time since we've held our presidents to that standard. That's the standard I want you to hold me to. That's a high standard. Now, I think about that in judging the way that I comport myself in different areas. Am I going to tell my kids to go to school and be a bully? No, I'm not. But I'm going to tell them, if somebody bullies you or hits you, you're going to hit them back 10 times harder.
So, I mean, like, as a person, so my niece and nephew, I'm childless, so president of the United States, that I would be happy if they grew up to be like them. Not their policies in office, the whole kabang. Well, Trump is a narcissist who's rude to a lot of people and self-destructive. Wouldn't want that. Obama also, it's funny, I skipped over old Joe Biden there. Obviously. But Obama, he's been, as president and even since, divisive. He's not been a uniter like he was supposed to be. He's a narcissist. He says, I remember, the more he talked, he wasn't this great speaker that everyone said he was. Bill Clinton, no, obviously. George W. Bush, no, I guess. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, like, he doesn't come off like a bad guy. His father, I think I'd probably just stay away from Bushes. Don't know if I would want niece and nephew to be anything like them. Reagan. I mean, Jimmy Carter, wasn't a good president, but I think he was a good person. I mean, maybe Jimmy Carter. Is that bad? I mean, Reagan, I think he had a lot of change in his life. So I don't really, but I don't know. Gerald Ford, don't really know anything about him. Nixon, no. Kennedy, Johnson, no. Kennedy, no. Eisenhower, yes. So, yes, the man who left, it's a firm yes. The man who left office 63 something years ago. So that's what kind of leadership we have.
And that's the way I'm going to lead this country. You have to be, as we say in our family, you have to be strong enough to protect your kindness. So if you watch those debates carefully, I don't engage in four-letter words. I mean, there are other candidates who have called me dumb, scum, and worse that I'm not going to repeat here. I didn't go after them, but if they're going to come after me, I'm not going to be a president, whether it's Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin or anybody else, who's going to roll over. When I'm leading the United States, the same rule applies. If you hit us, we hit you back 10 times harder. But it's not for the sake of being a bully. It's for protecting our inner kindness, too. And I think it's important that we have a president that has both of those attributes. I've done more podcasts probably than most presidential candidates in history combined, mostly because podcasts are new. I'll admit that. But I will tell you, that's a different setting. And so I think it's the book of Ecclesiastes that teaches, and my faith teaches me the same thing. There's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place for fortitude. There's a time and place for justice. There's a time and place for mercy. And I think it's going to take all of those attributes, every last ounce of each of those attributes.
What he just said there, pulling that out of his hat, Ecclesiastes, when he's a Hindu. Like, so much of what he says seems so canned. Like, he went to AI and said, just give me, tell me what conservatives want to hear. So I'm very skeptical of him. I'm very curious about Vivek. I hope he has a bright future in this country. I hope he helps us, but I think he can. And is he just really that smart, just that well-read? Like, cause that doesn't, is that just one of his canned response? Because I hadn't heard that before. So, I don't listen to everything he says, but it's interesting.
Attributes to stand for this country, to reunite this country and revive who we are. You don't want a wilting flower in the White House, but you also want somebody who understands what we are fighting for. That's the standard I want you to hold us to. We will aspire to hold ourselves to. And I think that sometimes being a parent is what gives me my moral clarity. And I hope through the rest of this campaign, we're just getting warmed up, I hope to be able to earn your trust. That yes, I do have what it takes to tell you the truth. I'm not going to hide the truth from you. If you want someone who's going to speak truth to power, vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you, to the Republican Party. Do it unvarnished, without sugarcoating. And I don't do much sugarcoating. But also somebody who, as you, I believe, want, can stand for the ideals that would make our founding fathers proud and would make our children proud as well.
So it was all nice hearing stuff. I don't know when we're going to get to the part where he really battles them. I'm guessing you're towards the end. Let's keep listening.
Speaking of those debates, let me ask you about something that you said at the debate last week. You used the phrase inside job to describe what happened on January 6th. The next day, Capitol rioter Alan Hostetter highlighted your comments at his sentencing. He is going to prison for 11 years. Hostetter threatened members of Congress. He brought a hatchet, knives, pepper spray, stun batons, tactical gear to the U.S. Capitol. Are you concerned that a convicted felon like that is now promoting your comments in court?
So here's my concern, Abby, and I want to tell you guys where I'm at. If you had told me, it's close to 3 years ago that January 6, 2021 happened. If you had told me 3 years ago, back when I was a biotech CEO, not steeped in this world, I was just consuming passive media but was focused on my world of developing medicines. If you had told me that January 6th was in any way an inside job, the subject of government entrapment, I would have told you that was crazy talk. Fringe conspiracy theory nonsense. I can tell you now, having gone somewhat deep in this, it's not. The reality is this. We do have a government, first of all, we have to acknowledge, that has lied to us systematically over the last several years about the origin of COVID-19, about the Hunter Biden laptop that we were told was false by 51 CIA experts and otherwise before we now know that it was true. You can go straight down the list, the Trump-Russia disinformation collusion hoax, all of it. Now we come to January 6th. The reality is we know that there were federal law enforcement agents in that field. We don't.
that's kind of what this really upset CNN. I think Van Jones had a meltdown about it. I don't know what the term is, but I think maybe perhaps even a legal strategy where you say something that's not admissible in court, but once the jury has heard it, they've heard it, and even though it's not admissible, it's in their minds. So that's what he just did here. He didn't CNN criticize themselves, was that they gave him a platform to say this. He just told millions of Americans who watch CNN, who probably had no thoughts of this, that maybe he just got people thinking.
I don't know how many. I think it's shameful. And if I may finish just answering.
Well, let me
this is really important.
I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you here because you're
I know
saying that
the
there
establishment doesn't approve of this
you're
message.
saying
I know
that there
this,
were
but
federal
you
agents.
should be able to talk about this.
You're saying that there were federal agents.
This is
in the
important to
crowd.
talk about.
You are saying there were federal agents in the
Not
crowd on
stopping the
on
message.
January
That's
6th.
important.
There is no.
See, he's demonstrating something very important. And I spoke about Pierre Poilievre, the candidate running for Prime Minister of Canada. I'm going to play a clip of him that I've been trying to work in for weeks. Trump has learned this, I think, in his last CNN actually town hall. You say what you want to say. You don't answer the questions they want you to answer. You just say what you want to say. When you're dealing with a media that doesn't want a open discussion, they don't want to just hear everyone out. You got to say what you're going to say.
No evidence that there were federal agents in the crowd on January 6th.
So why, before Congress, when pressed on what the number was, they didn't say there were none? They just couldn't say how many there were.
So you're saying that that you have not seen any evidence that there were, and so you
we've seen
assume
multiple
that there were.
informants suggesting that there were. We know people were FBI informants who were asked.
Is there any evidence?
May I just finish this, and you can come back and question me?
But let me clarify.
I know it's very uncomfortable for you.
I'm going to clarify my
I know
question
this is uncomfortable for many
because
people, but we have to do the truth here.
I'm going to clarify my question because I want to make sure that you understand what I'm asking.
I understand this deeply, and I told you I was
Where
here years
is
ago. I'm not there now.
the evidence?
Yes.
Where is the evidence that the government
Evidence.
had a
So let's
plot,
do this.
an inside job,
But no, I'm
fired
going to
CNN's
inside
big
job.
one on
I'm not gonna-
evidence.
I'm not
violence
on
on January 6th?
I'm
Where's
not
the
going to let you put
evidence
words in
of
my
No, there
mouth.
wasn't any evidence on
And I'm going to tell you what I
Where
mean by
is
that.
the evidence of
And
the
Kyle Rittenhouse or the Covington kids or Donald Trump Russian collusion or Brett Kavanaugh being a gang rapist or endless number of accusations that CNN throws out all the time without evidence. And he's not giving in to them.
government was involved
Entrapment.
in planning or executing January 6th?
So I'm
Where's
going
that
to give you
evidence?
I'm going to give you hard facts, and if I may, Abby, I know this is going to be a little uncomfortable, but we're going to go through this, and you can push
Just
back
waiting
on it
for
after
the
that.
evidence.
And you can push back on that, and let's do this fairly. Why did they suppress footage of now what's been released? 200 hours of footage of shooting rubber bullets into that crowd, shooting tear gas into that crowd. You didn't see that before. You saw what the response was to that. Now you see footage coming out of actually rolling out the red carpet for Capitol Police allowing people
Ramaswamy,
in
again,
right through the front door.
vast
That is
majority of
evidence.
that
Video
footage
evidence should have been released
shows-
before, Abby.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
That
the vast
evidence should have been
majority
released
of the
before.
footage shows
And my deeper
police
question
officers
is this.
being overrun
and I want to talk about one more
by
case.
violent
This is really important.
riders. That's
I'm
what
going
the
to give you
vast
I'm going to give you some hard
majority
facts.
of it shows.
So here's what entrapment
can't
is.
cherry pick.
I'm not cherry picking.
You
If I
cannot-
may finish,
you
Abby.
cannot
If I may
cherry
finish,
pick
Abby. I'm not cherry picking.
examples.
Masterclass.
To the
And-
contrary. To the contrary,
cannot
you know who
cherry
cherry
pick
picked?
examples
You know who cherry
and
picked?
say
The
that
government
that
did.
is what happened
The
on
government
January
cherry picked
6th.
12 hours of footage when there was 200 hours of footage. So cherry picking was the government, not me. Release the whole thing. And let me just finish one thing too, because this is super important as a topic.
So when you-
I
when
think this is a
we're-
civil libertarian issue of our time.
When we were
Gretchen Whitmer's
talking-
kidnapping. I want to be really clear on this, because it's the same issue in the same FBI, same even part of the FBI. 3 people who were in an alleged plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer were acquitted at the end of trial because it was entrapment. That is, government agents put them up to do something they otherwise wouldn't have done. They gave them credit cards with spending limits of up to $5,000, encouraged them to buy munitions, plan something they weren't otherwise willing to plan. So much so, and I want people at home to know this, especially CNN viewers to know this, is that one of the jurors went to those defendants and apologized afterwards, gave him a hug, apologized, seeing what the government had put a poor guy up to who had to go to some Mexican restaurant across the street to get hot water. These people were exploited with credit cards up to $5,000, FBI agents, putting them up to a kidnapping plot that we were told was true but was entrapment. Same thing with the Capitol Police, people
Mr.
letting them in
Ramaswamy,
freely. Many of those people then being
Mr. Ramaswamy,
charged.
look,
The government cannot put you up to do
don't-
something and then
Mr.
charge you for it.
Ramaswamy, look,
That's wrong.
See-
I don't want to have
It's wrong to the left.
It's
I
out.
I don't want to have to.
She
I don't
doesn't-
have to
she has no idea
interrupt
what
you.
to
I
do.
really don't. But I don't want you to mislead the audience here or
I'm
at
not.
home.
Abby, I think they've been misled by the mainstream media.
14
The
people,
mainstream media has misled them.
14
Release
people
the
were
video
charged in that plot. A majority of them were convicted.
I said 3 of them were acquitted
Right,
on
but-
grounds of
but
entrapment.
what
That's
folks
a fact.
need- what
Dispute me.
folks-
Was I wrong about that?
What folks need to
Was I wrong
understand-
about what I said?
what
I
folks
was not.
need to understand
3
is
people
that
were acquitted on grounds of entrapment.
9
See,
were
he's
pure
not giving an inch.
9 were
It's
convicted.
beautiful.
But the 3 who were put up should
But
have never
going
got to that
back
stage of
to
a
the
trial.
January
okay?
6th
That's
issue.
unacceptable in the United States.
Look, I just want people to understand. 3 people were acquitted.
So I was going to try to do play a clip from Van Jones of CNN and his response, essentially calling Vivek Ramaswamy Hitler. Couldn't find it without doing a too deep a dive, but it's really irrelevant. I showed you what I wanted to show you, and what I wanted to show you was Vivek saying what he wanted to say, and that's what has to be done. We have to find platforms of truth wherever they are and speak to them. So now we go to Pierre Poilievre. So now we're going to check out Pierre Poilievre and this beautiful interview that he did with the Canadian press.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels.
So you get that a lot. First off, eating an apple while he's being interviewed. That's gangster. That's awesome. And make them define the stance. Because typically that question would be, no, I'm not a populist. I'm not a, however the question is framed, they answer to the framing. And Pierre says, no. Let me be clear about the question that I'm answering.
I would guess. I mean,
What do you mean by that?
certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type
I
of
almost never
ideological
talk about.
spectrum.
I never really talk about left
But
or right.
anyways,
I don't
people
really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well,
See, he has nothing. He's going to throw out accusations. And now this reporter is not doesn't seem seasoned. It seems like maybe just a local outlet sent him out there, try to stir some stuff up. But he is not answering the question the way the questioner wants him to answer it. He is controlling this 100%.
I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
Like who?
I don't know who, but
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
you must know somebody.
okay. I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways,
Some
the
people
point
say.
of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
What are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me
Okay.
a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms
that.
of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's
Yeah, it's beautiful.
it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
I'm not
just
sure.
wondering.
I don't know what your question
Okay,
is.
then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense.
Okay.
Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government.
He refused to answer the question the reporter tried to put him in a box and made him defend it from the box he was put in. He didn't go in that box. He was controlling the question that he was answering. And eventually the reporter gave up and just gave him a platform to say what he wanted to say in the first place.
You know, the guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades. I'm going to cap spending, cut waste, so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You'll want to be able to pay your mortgage again? You want to be able to afford rent? Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power of your paycheck.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Find that clip and watch it. If you have some ideological opponents in your family or at work, watch that. Watch that over and over again, because don't talk about religion and politics, folks. We listen to them. We really listen to them in that country to the point where we're almost lost. Don't talk about politics and religion. Don't talk about the important things in life. That's what it is. I understand that a lot of people don't want to be burdened with politics, and that's fine. Just don't vote. But it's part of life. It should be. We should know about both of them. Both of them, both aspects play a huge part of our lives, or they should. Certainly religion should, and it doesn't. The lack of it affects a lot of people. Don't be afraid to say what you want to say. Just figure out how to say it. I hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment. And by the way, I need to address this. There's a lot of people who don't know what that means. That means that is U.S. flag code, nation in distress. And if you don't believe our country is in distress, wake up. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you.